First fatality of Manhattan gas explosion identified as female college security officer as number of casualties climbs to 3 with at least 64 others injured. An apartment building on 116th and Park Avenue in East Harlem burst into flames shortly after 9 a.m. Residents called to report a gas odor just 15 minutes before the blast. A resident in one of the destroyed buildings says fellow tenants complained about an unbearable odor in recent weeks. The building suspected of causing the explosion is at 1644 and 1646 Park Avenue and houses a Spanish Christian church on the first floor. At least 3 fatalities have been reported with at least 64 others injured. Sergeant Gerald Camacho, 44, public safety officer at Hunter College, named among the dead. 9 to 12 others are feared missing. There were 15 units between the 2 demolished buildings. More than 250 firefighters responded to the scene to battle the flames and dig through debris in search of survivors. One witness reported seeing residents in the building flying out after the blast. The number of causalities in the Manhattan gas leak explosion, the leveled 2 buildings in East Harlem, has increased to 3. With one of the victims identified Wednesday evening as a public safety officer at a city college. Mayor Bill de Blasio confirmed that the explosion was caused by a gas leak at an afternoon briefing. The leak was reported to Cone Dyson at 9:13 a.m. and crews were dispatched 2 minutes later, but by the time they arrived, the building on the corner of 116th and Park Avenue had already burst into flames. The 64 injured are being treated at 4 area hospitals, with at least 2 of the victims suffering from serious life-threatening injuries. 9 to 12 others are still missing, an NYPD source told the New York Daily News. SGT Gerald Camacho, 44, was working at Hunter College's Silberman School of Social Work building at 119th Street and 3rd Avenue at the time of the blast. According to the school, Camacho had been employed as a security officer at Hunter since 2008. We are sad to report that, in an explosion that destroyed 2 buildings in East Harlem this morning, we have lost a member of the Hunter family. Our hearts go out to Gerald's family at this terrible time, read a statement from Hunter College President Jennifer J. Ropp. We know this is a difficult time for all those who knew and worked with Sergeant Camacho, whether at the Silberman School or as part of the Public Safety Office. All of you will be in our thoughts in the days ahead. We will update the community soon about plans to hold a memorial and about where to send your condolences. Mayor de Blasio called the incident a tragedy of the worst kind because there was no warning in advance. Mr. de Blasio's statements go against what many witnesses in the area have told local news stations, that an odor was noticeable in the days leading up to the blast this morning. Ruben Barrero, who lived in one of the destroyed buildings, says tenants in the building had complained about an odor to their landlord in recent weeks and as recently as Tuesday. It was unbearable, said Barrero, who lived in a second-floor apartment with his mother and sister, all of whom were away at the time of the explosion. You walk in the front door and you want to turn around and walk directly out. Barrero says city fire officials were called about the smell a few weeks ago. At one point it got so bad that one of his fellow residents even broke open the door of the roof to ventilate the building. The fire department is currently reviewing its records to see if there were prior complaints of a gas odor at the building, but Cone spokesman Elizabeth Matthews insisted today that the only call they received came 15 minutes before the blast. Matthews says they take odor complaints very seriously and a crew was dispatched just 2 minutes after receiving the call. Matthews says Cone is working with firefighters and have the leak under control. She says residents in the area shouldn't worry about another blast. James De Jesus lives on the same block as the building that exploded, and took a dramatic photo that shows the damage after the blast. De Jesus and his family live at 89 East 116th Street and the blast was so strong, he first assumed the fire was in his building. We were all sleeping when it happened. I looked out my window and saw debris, smoke and people panicking and screaming, De Jesus told Mail Online. He says he and other residents had been smelling a faint gas odor in the days leading up to the explosion. The 5-story building is located at 1644 and 1646 Park Avenue and houses a Spanish Christian church on the bottom floor. Denise Ortiz was nearby when she heard the explosion, and described a terrifying scene to NBC4. People who were living in the building, they flew out when the blast hit, Ortiz said. It knocked everyone into the debris. She added that she initially worried the Metro North Railway had been targeted in an attack. It sounded like a bomb went off, she said. Everyone started screaming, they blew up the Metro North. But when we ran over there, we saw a building had collapsed and it was not the Metro North. Police say the explosion was definitely not a terrorist attack. Relatives of the building's residents gathered in the streets below, pleading for help about their loved ones. My brother lives there, and I can't get through, one unidentified woman sobbed as she spoke to NBC4. They're telling me I can't get through. My daughter, another cried as she put her hand to her mouth. I wanna know if she's down. Please help me please. A woman who lives in a building just a block away says she was sleeping when she heard the explosion and the blast rocked her building. I was basically sleeping and my whole wall shook, my whole room was shaking and it basically blew my window up. It opened up, the woman told PIX11. My lights and my stuff on my dresser fell off. I thought it was a bomb. One witness said that the explosion knocked groceries off shelves at a nearby supermarket, while NBC4's Jonathan Vigliotti reported from the scene that numerous stores had had their windows blown out. There are about 10 storefronts, half of them have their windows blown out, he said. It's really hard to even see through the smoke. The entire area, cops everywhere, firefighters everywhere. Another witness told NBC4 that she saw people running towards the building to help anyone who was hurt. It was chaos, she said. Metro North Railway has elevated tracks right next to the west of the building, and lines in and out of the city were temporarily suspended, with passengers being ordered off the platform at nearby 125th Street station. As of 5 p.m., service was restored on all lines at reduced speeds. Customers were warned to expect crowding and delays. FBI officials are on the scene investigating the blast.